Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to a flag-laden Game Week 21. My name is Fergie. Rich, welcome back. What colour was your arrow in Game Week 20?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. It seems so long ago now, doesn't it? Game Week 20.
When was it? That was like New Year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Seems ages ago that it finished finally, but I think it was probably only about a week ago. Yeah, I got a green, but it was not without its ups and downs. Very elongated game week, wasn't it? And I got 87, I think, which was a decent score, and it was looking really good until Areola spoilt it all for me in the last kick of game. I think probably looking at the Content Creators League, I think something like he's about 80% owned across that league, and I don't have him. My goalkeeper woes, continue to haunt me all the way back to his wrist injury. Logical decision to get rid of a goalkeeper who's got a busted wrist, isn't it, really? But yeah, that hasn't helped. So anyway, I managed to not bench Palmer, which was nice for his 18. A lot of people did bench him, but I got his points. And obviously the roller coaster ride of Mo Salah missing a penalty, then coming good in the second half. That was an amazing game, that Newcastle game, from a fantasy perspective, wasn't it?
So, it was, and it
was
a roller coaster.
Came out of it with a green, and a small amount of progress up to a huge 750k now. So yeah, I'm coming for everybody.
We move, Rich, as they say.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And this week we are also joined, as you can see, by the brilliant Big Man Bakar. Bakar, absolutely great to have you with us once again. How are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 20?
Thanks for having me, Fergie. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. It was a green arrow. I've been making some stable progress in recent weeks. I was actually just checking since the Game Week 10 wildcard. I've been on 12 green arrows out of 13 game weeks, so that's been solid progress. I can't really complain. I captained Alvarez this week. I got him in. That didn't exactly pay off. I was very happy actually at halftime.
Yeah.
I was dreading the Liverpool game because I had sold Nunes. I didn't have Salah captain. I went to sleep early thinking that, this is going to be a bit of a nightmare, so let's skip it. I actually woke up at halftime, and to my pleasant surprise, I saw Salah miss the penalty. And then the next 45 minutes were absolute hell. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. And even if I'm getting a green arrow despite that, I don't necessarily mind. And looking forward to the discussion tonight because, we have flags all over the place.
Like City, 142k, Bakar. You're having another very steady season and on the up. The Alvarez one, Rich, I see you've got Alvarez as well, and Bakar, he was incredibly popular one. I just remember just before the deadline, there was a big toss-up between sort of Alvarez or Foden, who to captain and stuff. But were you happy, Bakar, at the time with the 7 points of Alvarez, or were you just sort of a bit sort of meh? It seems a bit underwhelming, if I'm honest, from my view.
Because I bought him in, it felt underwhelming. But if I had owned him and not sort of necessarily gone out of my way to get him, then a 7-pointer would have been all right. But in any week, 7 points is sort of decent along the lines of expected return. But I mean, I didn't expect Salah to get a 16-pointer.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, it was an expensive transfer. So I spent my 2 frees on Trent and Alvarez, and it was really a week. We can see now, can't we? It was definitely a week to carry 2 free transfers into. That was really the soundest advice. But yeah, so it was an expensive 7 points that I bought with that extra free transfer there, I feel. But he's going to get another game, it would seem. So could have been worse if Haaland was definitely coming back.
It was you, Rich, who broke Trent then, was it, after bringing him in?
Yeah, I broke Trent after about 8 successive weeks of returns or something. I was late on him, brought him in, and a 0-pointer, and then a nice injury. So there we are. My luck follows me, doesn't it? Superb.
It does indeed. I had a decent week. Scored 93, up from 400k to 270k. I had Areola, which is obviously really nice, especially after I had a benched Davrabka. We were all following that on Twitter because at the time, I think Davrabka after his penalty save and clean sheet was on for like a 15-pointer or something. It ended up on 8, which is all right. But Areola's was a bit better, wasn't he? So, happy with that. Gabriel, Porro and Trent, all disappointed. Salah captain, Saka, Bowen. who was my transfer in over Foden, which was very disappointing, very frustrating for two reasons. One, that I missed out on the 12-pointer, but two, Bowen looks like he now may be injured for the next game week. Son and Palmer, Solanke and Watkins. So really, really happy with that result. Was thinking, this is great, absolutely flying high. FPL is good, life is good. And then we hear about Trent and Bowen in particular being injured, probably going to miss Game Week 21, we think. And then I look at my team, and it's an absolute shambles. So I'm sure lots of people are in the same position as well. Because is it the 5 highest owned players in FPL? I think are now all unavailable for some reason. I think it might be.
Well, 6 of the Adam put a graphic out, didn't he? 6 of the top 8 or 6 of the top 9 scorers in FPL are flagged at the moment.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, lots to talk about indeed, because it is going to be a crazy few weeks. Just before we start, we have extended our 30 days free offer at Fantasy Football Hub and for another week. So if you haven't got the offer yet, 30 days free, 30% off. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can now do so. This includes our My Team features, including recommended transfers, predictive points to artificial intelligence, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members, and so much more. It's all on the FFH app too. It's an absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL. It's free for 30 days. Give it a go. You won't be disappointed. This offer does end definitely this week. We've extended it another week for those who haven't jumped on the offer yet. Okay, so we've got the fixture ticker up now from Fantasy Football Hub for the next 6 game weeks. Rich, could you just give us a bit of a skinny on on kind of what you're looking ahead to now over the next few game weeks and what you're thinking about?
Okay, yeah. Well, immediate crises aside, I think we're still going to learn an awful lot more information in the second half of January. There's only one full game week, 10 matches between now and the end of January. That next game week is spread over 2 weekends. So we have a very long game week 21. But as well as what we'll learn in that game week, we have another round of FA Cup at the end of January. We have the conclusion of the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup semi-finals, which again are very close. Fulham are only a goal behind and have the home leg at home to Liverpool. Middlesbrough are actually beating Chelsea after the home leg in their semi-final. So those 2 semi-finals could swing either way. And really, if we talk about the EFL Cup first, the outcome of those semi-finals will reveal a potential blank game week in game week 25, I believe, for the finalists. So it could be Fulham, but it's more like, let's say it's more likely to be Liverpool and Chelsea. And their matches, or certainly the Liverpool game, could move into game week 25.
Yeah, I think.
And
sorry, Rich.
Double game week for Liverpool.
I think you made a bit of a typo, and you said they might blank in 25, but you meant blank in 26 to go into 25.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're right.
That's
Game week 26 would be a blank game week because that's when the final is. But it's yet to be announced. Those games could immediately shift into the midweek beforehand, which is game week 25, giving Liverpool a double game week that week, which is key, obviously, because we're all in the process of potentially getting rid of their players and needing them back again. So that's a massive piece of information, the outcome of that. But in order for all that to happen, really, they have to reach the final, and they're 2-1 up with the away leg to come. The FA Cup as well is significant, perhaps also for the slightly longer term planning, because that will really start to shape blank game week 29 in terms of fixtures that will be either confirmed on or confirmed off in that week, should those teams progress through one more round of the FA Cup in February, and therefore reveal the size of a blank game week. So all the chip strategy that we get a lot of content around will start to crystallize around the first week in February, and we'll know a lot more about that then. Of course, while all that is going on, we've got the African Cup of Nations playing out, we've got the Asia Cup playing out in parallel, and of course the players we're selling this week, that will dictate when they are due to come back again. And there are some graphics stocking around showing that I think Salah has like a 31% chance of being back by game week 23. Son, similar, but because South Korea are slightly more favourites to get to the latter stages of that competition, you'd possibly say that Son is likely to come back a week after Salah, but it's all conjecture. Either of them could be back from, arguably from game week 22 if they go out in the first round. So we're all in the process of getting rid of these guys, but we might want them back a lot quicker. And so I think we've got a graphic coming up to talk about who we might want to sell first based on what we know now. But I would just say hold on to any transfers you can between now and the end of the month. They're extremely precious because and do not, unless you absolutely have to, make early transfers in game week 22 because we've just seen what happens if you do.
Lovely stuff, Rich. A couple of things I would just add in there as well. City and Brentford have the potential for a double game week 25 as well, so that could be absolutely chaos. And also the FA Cup 5th round draw is the evening before the game week 22 deadline, which will dictate so much stuff in terms of what might happen in blank game week 29. So between this deadline now, 2022, there's an absolute ocean of football going on, which will massively impact everything which goes on after. So thank you, Rich. Really good stuff. Bakar, what's your current kind of thinking of the landscape of FPL and what's in your mind?
It's an interesting question, and it's something I've been trying to get my head around the entire week. Just for the benefit of the listeners, Game Week 29 is likely to be the biggest blank game week of the season, which is likely to have around 5 to 6 blank game weeks. And then we'll have 2 big doubles in Game Week 34 and 37. 37 is projected to be the biggest of the season. And as things stand, it looks as if some of the teams that will be doubling in 34 will be different to those that will be doubling in 37. As of now, it's very difficult to sort of lock in a chip strategy because a lot of information is there to be had. And we'll have far more clarity before the Game Week 22 deadline, after the Carabao Cup fixtures are over, after the FA Cup draw, FA Cup results. So obviously the sane advice from me is to wait for as much information as possible, and to stay as flexible as you can. Having said that, I do realize that a lot of people are in this position where they have Salah, Son, Bowen, Lascelles, Cash, Taylor, all these guys, and they don't exactly are in a position to put a starting 11 out this week. So they're sort of forced into acting this week, even though it's not the best possible thing to do. So this is what basically makes Game Week 21 very tricky in a nutshell, that some transfers have to be made at a point where information is not exactly clearly available.
Yeah, I completely agree. And,
very true.
At the moment, kind of spoiler alert, we'll look at my team towards the end, but I've got most of those players who you mentioned there, Bakar, plus Trent. I can't get 10 out even, I don't think. And I've drafted up. Well, I haven't drafted. I'm close. I'm close to hitting the free hit button, and I'll talk about my rationale. I've not decided on it yet, but I'll talk about my rationale a little bit later around that, and why I think that playing a free hit chip is not as crazy as it sounds. Because it's not just about getting points this week, right? It's around the strategy later on as well. But we will touch on that in a bit.
Very much so.
Yep. Our first graphic in question, really, Bakar, interested in your thoughts on this, is who to sell first. So on this graphic, we've got Trent, Bowen, Salah, Son, and Hwang. Obviously, all unavailable for different reasons. We've heard, my understanding is that Bowen and Trent could potentially be back for Game Week 22. I think the diagnosis or prognosis on both is they both be back within sort of 2 to 3 weeks. Salah and Son more likely towards the beginning to middle of February, which could be sort of game week 24-ish, and Hwang on there as well. So in order of importance of who to get rid of first, what's your thinking?
Yeah, this is basically the biggest question of the game week summed up. I think personally the big three are Salah, Son, Trent. So coming straight to them, when you look at the players in isolation, I think I would rate Son above Salah and Trent in the pecking order with regards to who to sell, simply because Salah and Trent are likely to have a double game week in 25, while Son is unlikely to have that double in 25 and is also likely to blank in 26. So selling Son is easier. What complicates this pecking order and this scenario is the fact that a lot of people don't have Erling Haaland in their teams this week. And if you're selling Son for, let's say, a midfielder like Foden or Richarlison or anyone in that price range, it does not necessarily fund a transfer to Erling Haaland next week. So a lot of people find themselves in this position where they sort of are forced to sell either Salah or Trent and Son to be able to be in a position where they can where they can get Haaland next week. As of now, I haven't really made my mind up on who to sell out of Salah and Son, but I think I will keep Trent simply because of the fact that he could be back for game week 22 and game week 23, and because of the fact that he's 4 to 5 million less cheaper than Salah. He's easier to keep.
Yeah. Okay. So in order, Son out first, then Salah, then Trent for you is your sort of top three in order. Is that right?
It is, but it is in isolation though, and a lot of people find themselves in the position where they have to get Haaland. So I mean, Salah and Son are equal for me. So in that case,
yeah. What about Bowen? Is Bowen a keep for you if you can? I mean, he may even play in 21, right? Because it's a fortnight away. Is he a keep for you, or?
Yeah, I think so, because if he's back next week, then I don't think he's a hard sell. I know a lot of people bought him early this week to catch the price rise, but I mean, if he's missing 1 week, it's not exactly a terrible situation to be in. So I think I would keep Owen. On Salah, another point I'd like to add here is that what makes it trickier is the fact that in game week 24, Liverpool are playing Burnley at home, and in that week, Haaland is playing Brentford away, if I'm not mistaken, or it's Everton at home. I think it's not an easy fixture either way, and Liverpool are likely to have the better fixture, and Salah could be a standout option in game week 24 in itself. And if the bookmaker odds are to be believed, then Salah is most likeliest to come back by game week 24. So even if you're selling Salah, you sort of have to be flexible and sort of have a plan to get him back in game week 24 if need be, because I mean, even apart from game week 24, we only look at game week 25, he has that home fixture against Luton in it. He is a triple captain candidate. He is a legit candidate for triple captaincy, and I just think we're going to see, because of all these various chip strategies, some people are selling Son, some are selling Salah, some are selling Trent. We're going to see a lot of variance in the game weeks to come, and this should make for fun times ahead.
It should indeed.
It does. Yeah.
Rich, what in terms of selling?
Interesting.
Well, have you made an early transfer or two, or?
No, I don't make any transfers. Okay. But no, I've only got one though, because of what I sort of said about Alvarez before. So I only got one this week, and I think I've got more flags than the Ryder Cup right now in my team. So my view on this is similar to Bakar's. I agree with him on the Son over Salah as the first to sell, purely because of the potential of the double. For me, I've got more money tied up in Salah in terms of accrued team value. I bought was a bit late on Sonny, and there's a possibility Sonny's blanking in 26, etc., etc. So I actually think he's the person to go off. Now, I think in these situations, you have to look at your team, and I'm forced to hit this week. I've got so many flag players that really, unless I use a free hit or a wild card, I've got to take a hit. So it's taken me a few days to come to terms with the circumstances of that. But the best thing you can do in this situation is then turn that to your advantage, right? So I've only got 2 playing defenders, so I will sell Trent because of that. Otherwise, I'm just literally letting appearance points go if I was to sell Salah and Son, or I'd be taking a -8 to get rid of all 3 of them. So I will sell Tread, and I will bring in Estupinan, who's the fairly obvious transfer there, and that gets me half of my Haaland cash. I've only got 0.5 in the bank because I've spread the money around the team in buying Trent last week. I was a bit reluctant to do it the first week, but then I thought, got to get him, and I'll just move the money straight back out, and then I can afford to sell Son and raise the rest of the funds to get Haaland. However, I will have to go budget a more budget player when I sell Son in order to get that 7 million or so that I need to bring Haaland in. So if you just imagine almost every engaged manager will be working a plan out to get their Haaland cash for game week 22, and that those two moves, bringing in a Stupinan and a midfielder below, I think 6.4 million or below, will get me the money that I need to do the Haaland move. So that's what I will be doing. I haven't decided on the mid yet, and we'll discuss that in a minute, I'm sure. But yeah, that is my plan, and I will sell Trent, and I will keep Salah because of. I think people are underestimating how difficult it will be to bring him back in at short notice. Particularly without hitting, it will be very difficult because you're using your transfer in 22 for Haaland. That's only going to give you one more free transfer in 23, and you'll have to start thinking about getting Salah back before he's even confirmed to come back. So I think holding him is wise, just from a point of view of saving those couple of transfers and the team value, and having other fires to put out as well. So although it's not a great state to be in, I've looked at a lot of teams this week, and the vast majority have between 4 and 6 flag players or unavailable players. So everyone's in, I think it's one of your phrases, isn't it? We're all in the same boat, Fergie. One or two will have ghosted through, looking perfect, but you'll see their teams on Twitter saying they're rolling or something, but I doubt it very much. There's a lot of flags out there.
Oh, indeed. And in terms of selling first, thanks for that, gent. I must say I do agree with most of what you said there. It's looking at who to bring in this week to get the Sterling. Excuse the pun, Rich. The Sterling for Erling. So who do we sell to be able to get? Sorry, who do we buy rather to be able to get Haaland in? So, Rich, just want to start us off.
Sure, yeah. There's been a lot of content this week already to consume on which midfielders. There's got to be 50 Salah and Son replacement podcasts out there. But we keep learning. We keep learning each night as there's another game. We got some info on Jota last night. We can obviously discuss. He's not on the graphic, but he's certainly in the conversation as a potential midfielder. So midfielders first. Clearly, there's a lot of people going to sell Son or Salah or both of them this week. So 3 or 4 of the midfielders are shown on this. I think Foden probably is the form pick. However, he's the most expensive of these options, and if you're moving Son on for him, he may leave you short on the Haaland funding. So all depends on teams, how much money you got in the bank, how much you spread the money around your team already. But I think if money was no object and I still had the Haaland transfer enabled, I'd probably look at getting Foden in just on form and potential for the upcoming weeks with a double in 25 potentially. He does look to be the standout candidate. Richarlison, there's different opinions on Richarlison. Some feel that he may be impacted minutes wise by Werner's arrival. Tottenham signed Werner this week, if you didn't know, and I think he's fine for the next few weeks at least. If you're worried about that, but he does tend to get hauled off after about 70 minutes, and he can be a bit like Darwin, can't he? He can be a bit wasteful and not have the best of games sometimes in terms of finishing. But yeah, he's a good pick and a good placeholder for Son while he's away. One of the ones I like, and I think I urge you to put this on there, is Pascal Gross from Brighton. He's been ticking along really nicely, lots and lots of chance creation. His stats look really good. And Brighton's fixtures now for the next 7 or 8, right up to that blank game at 29 look really good. They're top of the ticker. And he's really the guy that everything goes through. He's on all set pieces. Basically, he's a really good solid pick. And if you're like me and you have no bench, he's absolutely nailed. A lot of these players, Foden, Richarlison, Garnacho, even a stupid, and they could miss a game. They could get someone else playing in their place. And if that were to happen this week, you don't want that to happen when you've got no bench cover. So if you're looking for someone who's absolutely nailed, then Gross looks like a really good pick, and I could just about afford him, and still make the Haaland move. So he's definitely worth mentioning. But probably the guy I'm going to go for, and if Adam was on, I know he supports this, is Garnacho. So he's right at the back there, peeping in 4.8 million. Home game against Tottenham this weekend, which is a good game for United, even though their form is is up and down. Pretty nailed in the team now. I can't see Anthony starting over him for the foreseeable. So really only need that game from him. And he releases so much money. Even if you're selling Son for him, he releases 5 million. So I really like the Garnacho option, and it just gives me a little bit of flexibility moving forward if saving Salah on the bench to make a few upgrades elsewhere on future double game week players. So it gives you a lot of flexibility as well as enabling Haaland. So there's 4 that I picked out, but then also a lot of people have got Trent. So I've stuck Estupinan in at the back there as the defensive standout option to bring in this week. I could have put Alfie Doughty on there from Luton, who's really creative and putting up. He's probably he's the actual informed defender across the whole game at the moment. And if you fancy a punt on him this week, he's only 4.5 now, and has 2 doubles to come potentially. So yeah, Alfie Doughty's another option in defence if you don't fancy Estupinan. I just think maybe Estupinan and Gross is perhaps a little bit too much Brighton to get both of them, but one of them I think is certainly a good idea to bring in. What are your thoughts, Bakar?
I think you summed it up very well, covering most of the replacements. I think in terms of midfielders, if I was picking one, irrespective of price, I think I would probably go with Foden. But having said that, I think there's that significant 1 million price difference, which a lot of people like you will sort of price them out from getting to Haaland later. In my position, I can just about get to Richarlison, so I'm sort of tempted to go there, even though there's that possibility that Spurs could plank in Game Week 26. But I like his potential. I think he should be safe, and if he's playing up front, I think there's an outside chance of him being on penalties as well. And if he's playing in an Ange Postecoglou side, I don't necessarily mind him for the next 3 to 4 weeks. I really, really like the Garnacho shout, and I think he is someone I might sort of consider bringing in, because a lot of people are going to find themselves in this position where they want to have all of Salah, Haaland, and Trent by Game Week 24. And I think Garnacho is going to be critical to affording that draft. Because he's going to be that enabler that a lot of people will look to get. Because when you look at United's fixtures from that point onwards, they're actually really good. They're playing Luton at home, Fulham at home as well from that point onwards. So I've sort of looked at Garnacho, not necessarily from this week, but later on as well. But I don't really see the harm in getting him in this week. I was actually having a look at some of his underlying data, and over the previous 6 games, he has a non-pen XGI of 0.5, which is really good for someone of his price. Other than that, I think Pascal Gross is very underrated in the FPL community. I think if you can afford to go for him, I would probably pick him over Garnacho, simply because he has a lot of routes to points, set pieces. He's going to be on penalties if João Pedro is not on the field, and if he's playing as the number 10, I just think he's a very consistent, underrated performer. And with Europa not exactly being in the picture for Brighton, I think he could do well, especially in the immediate upcoming fixtures. And Brighton don't blank in Game Week 26 as well, so that's another added advantage. Another name I'd like to mention here is Eze. I don't think he has the best of fixtures this week, but from next week onwards, I think he has potential. If Elise is out, I think Eze is going to be the main talisman for Crystal Palace, and if he's on penalties, then he could do well in the times to come. And he's 6 million as well, so
yeah, good
pretty
price.
affordable too.
Yeah.
Good price. Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Jota is another one, I guess. I think he's a bit punty for the two of us, but I mean he's one of those who could work out if a few of the Maverick managers want to go there. I think he's going to start.
I was hoping if he'd have scored last night, I think you'd have seen a lot more enthusiasm for him. He didn't have a bad game, did he? But Nunez came on and had one of his best half hours for a while.
He was
didn't he?
sensational when he came on.
I just don't know you don't know which 3 or 4 are going to start for Liverpool, do you, at the moment?
Yeah.
So that's probably why he's a bit risky. But yeah,
and he's pricey.
punted.
He's pricey.
Yeah.
That's the issue. He's pricey, and the schedule for Liverpool is packed. I mean, they have plenty of games with the Carabao and FA Cup. So you never know. He's just coming back from injury. That's why he's a bit of a risk, but he does come with a certain degree of upside as well. Coming to Trent's replacements, I think Walker is sort of underrated. I know City defense isn't exactly uh, rated that highly by the FPL community, especially by those like myself who chose to go with Edison last year. It was week on week continuous torture of owning him. But having said that, I'm willing to go there again. I mean, Walker's someone I'm sort of eyeing in the weeks to come. Um, as maybe even a Porro replacement, because if Spurs are blanking in 26, I might replace Porro in the weeks to come. So I like Walker. If you're selling Trent, I don't mind that transfer, because as of now, it's looking as if Walker is going to be the City defender with the highest number of expected minutes. And with the double, I sort of like him. I mean, City's underlying data is always decent. They're just behind Arsenal for XGC this season. And even Arsenal themselves are good. I mean, if you don't own someone like a Gabriel, I like that shout too. Possibly even over Stupinan.
Really good shouts there, chaps.
Yep.
With all this in mind, just to chuck in a few players from Hub AI. So this is Fantasy Football Hub's predicted points tool. Interestingly, Gordon is still he's still high. Gordon, he's third on the list in for points the next 4 game weeks with 20 points. He's one who's a lot of sold. I sold him. A lot of sold. A lot of bench. I think you benched him, Rich. I
benched him last week. Yeah, he got an assist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very happy to hold him.
Their fixtures turn.
At least he isn't injured, Fergie. I mean,
this is it. And their fixtures turn in a couple of weeks. Yeah. They've got City and Villa next, I think, which I do think from an attacking view is not that bad. But after that, their run is superb. So I think Gordon is a good one to hold. Bruno Fernandes is still up there. I think against Spurs this week, and the fixtures going forward are pretty good as well. So he's predicted to score 19.9 points. Isaac is
you'd probably throw him in on a free hit, wouldn't you? Bruno.
Isaac 19.9, Odegaard 19.3. Ivan Toney, who we haven't mentioned yet, 19.2 as well. He's predicted over the next 4 game weeks to score more points than Eze, Gross, Bowen, Sterling, Cunha, Richarlison, Jota, Alvarez, and Trippier. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I'll touch on him a little bit more later. But the question I want to ask just before we move on, chaps, is about chips. So, Bakar, have you had any very early chip thought yet? Kind of based on the happy path of what will happen. So based on the fact, Liverpool and Chelsea, for example, will say Chelsea, they're 1-0 down, aren't they? But Liverpool and Chelsea will probably meet, and I mean blank game week 26. Man City and Brentford and the Liverpool Spurs games all go into 25. Big blank in 29, etc., etc. Have you had any very early thoughts on how that might pan out for you in terms of using your chips, or are you just not looking at it at all yet?
No, I've given it a lot of thought actually, and just having a loose idea of what I might be looking to do in the future does help. A lot of people sort of find themselves in this position where they have 7 or 8 players available this week, and they're either looking to activate the wildcard or they've actually pulled the trigger already. I don't necessarily think that's the best strategy. I think when it comes to the second wildcard, even though it's available, personally, I think the best time is to use it in together with the blanks, just to maximize the free hit and the bench boost chips. So somewhere around 30 or 31 is what I'm thinking. Possibly 31, because Man City and Arsenal are they have a fixture swing from that point onwards, and they're actually playing against each other in game week 30. And let's say if someone's team is in a terrible position, I think it's better waiting at least until next week before wildcarding, because we will have tons of more info than we do right now. So even if I was wildcarding this week, I will be, firing shots in the dark. And that's not what you want to do when you're making a wildcard team. So even if your team is in a precarious position, I think it makes sense to sort of take a hit or two, or just to hold off the wildcard right now. Coming to the rest of the chips, I think bench boost is likely to be in game week 37, simply because it's going to be the biggest double game week of the season. That's what we think as of now. Coming to the triple captainship, it looks as if game week 25 will be the week to play it. I've sort of looked into it in detail. I've looked at Ben Quellen's fixture projections and looked at the Planet FPL pod as well. But just looking there, I just think that the best fixtures are gonna come in Game Week 25 for both Salah and Haaland. In fact, it's going to be a very tough debate in Game Week 25 because Haaland's likely to have Chelsea and Brentford at home. Salah's likely to have Brentford away, Luton at home in Game Week 25 itself. So that's the prime window to play it. In Game Week 37, I've sort of looked at the fixtures for, Man City, Liverpool. They aren't exactly as good. I mean, for example, if you look at City, they're likely to have Fulham and Brighton away, or Fulham and Tottenham away. Liverpool are likely to have Villa and Fulham away, or Villa and Everton away. Similarly, when you look at someone like Watkins, Liverpool and Bournemouth at home. Spurs will likely have Chelsea and City along with Burnley. So the fixtures in Game Week 25, long story short, are as good as they can be. And in Game Week 37, you never know. I mean, there's always rotation. Some teams don't have anything to play for. Others are on the beach.
Exactly.
So if the opportunity is sort of presenting itself in 25, then I think that is the week to triple captain. Now, what this means is that even though we are in this position where, we can sell the likes of Trent and Salah this week and then just buy them on a free hit in 25, because free hitting in 25 would be very convenient. It means that that isn't exactly the best optimal strategy for the rest of your team when you look at it over the course of the season, because there will be weeks other than Game Week 25 where the free hit could be played. For example, in Game Week 29, where I expect around 5 to 6 blanks to fall. If, let's say, there are only 4 or 5 games over there, you'll find it very hard to navigate that week without a free hit. Similarly, in Game Week 34 and 37, if different teams are doubling, then it's very difficult to set yourself up, even with the wild card, for both the doubles. So you might be in a position where you end up free hitting in 25 to navigate this chaos with Liverpool players. But then later on, you find out that, maybe Game Week 29 is when you need to use it for the blanks, or maybe for a future double. So long story short, I think the free hit is best to be saved, and the triple captain is likely to be a better chip in Game Week 25.
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Bakar. Really, really concise and good stuff. Rich, what's your thinking? You got anything to add?
Just a couple of things. I think he's summarized it very well. I think nothing wrong with, if you're in real trouble and you've had to sell most of the key assets who are going to double in 25 and they end up doubling as predicted. We're going to spend a lot of transfers getting them back in, and we've still got 4 game weeks to play in front of us now. So the injuries are just going to keep coming, and it's very, very. If you keep needing to put fires out, you won't be able to use all your transfers to bring back Salah, to bring back Trent, to bring back Sonny, whatever. So get to game week 25, a free hit is perfectly viable. It's worth mentioning there are 1 or 2 other good fixtures from teams that we own assets of in game week 25, which might mean that free hit's a bit wasted then. But if there's nothing wrong with using a free hit in one of 25, 29, or I think there's going to be a mid-sized double in 34. The one thing I would say about wild carding in 30-31 is game week 37 is a long way after that, and if you're setting up for a bench boost in game week 37, you're having to maintain that team's health for a couple of months before that week arises. So I prefer setting up for a bench boost the following week, or very shortly afterwards. And so an earlier bench boost in the early 30 weeks might be preferable with either a small double or good single week fixtures. Just because you've got, having 15 healthy players this season is not that easy to achieve, who are all playing. So maintaining them and timing it perfectly for a double game week might mean that you have to wild card in game week 36 to do that effectively. So it's just about how healthy is the team. This seems to be a harder season to maintain a healthy squad, even though some of the content might suggest otherwise. It just seems to be that. Maybe that's my personal experience, but there's just so many injuries now.
I've got the HabAI Game Week 21 free hit team on screen. So this team, both the free hit team and the wildcard team, is available every single week on Fantasy Football Hub, and it just gives you a kind of idea of the top scoring players for 1 week. The reason I've got this app is I am contemplating a free hit this week. I'll just run through the the players first on the screen. They're kind of notes. Raya in goals. Arsenal home to Palace. White home to Palace as well. Estepinian and Dunk both home to Wolves. Saka as captain, predicted to score the highest amount of points this week via HubAI. Palmer and Gross we've mentioned. Sterling home to Fulham is predicted to do well this week, as is Bruno Fernandes against Spurs. Obviously, Spurs defence, as we know, is not the best at the moment. So we've got a midfield 5, and then up front, Solanke, and then a name we haven't heard for a long time, Ivan Toney, who is home to Nottingham Forest. I just wanted to touch on Toney because if you look at Nottingham Forest's defence, I believe that 4 of their regular defenders have all gone to AFCON, which is Niakate, excuse my pronunciation, Oria, Aina, and Bolly. It's my understanding they've all gone to AFCON, and the only defender who has played more than 390 minutes all season outside of those is Murillo. Now, every other defender, there's not one defender has played more than 3 sets of 90 minutes for Nottingham Forest this season. Obviously, that's just one factor, right? But Ivan Toney, as we know, is absolute class. He hasn't played a competitive game for, what was it? I can't remember, 8 months or 10 months. Understand that. But apparently, he's been training with the first team. He's been scoring hat tricks in behind closed doors games and things. So he's on the Forest this week. He's also got Spurs next week, who, as we know, frail to say the least at the back as well. So I quite like that pick on a free hit. And I just want to give the argument for why I'm thinking about a free hit. So in my team, I've got Salah, Son, Bowen, Trent, Lascelles. I've got Archer. I've got Taylor. So I've got 6 players. Sorry, that's not including Archer. I've got 6 players. I think 3 or 4 of them are definitely out. 1 or 2, Taylor and Bowen, maybe out, maybe not out. I don't have any Man City players, so I didn't go for Alvarez or Foden last week. I went for Bowen, obviously, which has backfired not just in the game week itself, but kind of after that. I can take like a -4 to get, I'll probably do something like Salah or Son to Foden, just for example. I probably need to, to take a -8 to get anywhere near 11 players out. Not that 1 week decides everything, right? I completely get that, but I need to take a -8. But what I'm doing, and this is why I was pausing when I kind of went on that -8 button. I was like, I'm taking a -8, and I'm taking out 2 of the best players in the game here, which I know I'm going to want back. And it could even be even as early as next game week. It's more likely to be after, I get that, especially with Salah and Son. But Bowen and Trent, for example, will likely be back, in my opinion, ahead of game week 22. And as we both know, they are two of the best assets in the whole game. The same for Salah and Son, you could argue as well. The information we find out before the next deadline as well will dictate. So everything Bakar said then, around all the kind of ifs and buts if these happen, we will know the vast majority of that information before the next deadline, game week 22. So for those who haven't seen, I'm sure most have, the game week 22 deadline is not till Tuesday, January the 30th, which is it's over 2.5 weeks after this deadline, due to the split game week and due to the FA Cup 4th round being played. And the FA Cup 5th round draw is also before this in 22. So we will get those, those likelihoods of Ben Crellin before this deadline for 22. So the fact that I have to take potentially a -8, and I may not even still get 11 players if I take a -8, I'm taking out really good players. At the moment, I have no idea how game week 25, 26, 29 is going to play out at all. And I do think there are a couple of players with fairly big upside this week, Toney included. I'm tempted to have one of those moments. I think we all have it in the season. I'm not going to swear on air, but the moments you just think, oh,
caution to the wind, let's do it. Yeah.
And I'm really tempted. And
okay, Fergie, I think it's a brilliant summary, and I I think if you're looking at 7 or 8 players that may not make it this week, that is a large amount of, you really are struggling to get an 11 out. I'm similar. I've got to take a hit, but I think I can do it with 1 hit and still get 11 who'll start. So that's once you start getting into -8s, -12s, you are into wild card or free hit territory. But one thing I would say is, we just spent Bakar and I just spent 10 minutes talking about game week 25, blank game week 26, big blank game week 29. Double game week 34, which someone in the chat has pointed out as well, is a different set of doubles to game week 37. So you can't cover them both with 1 wild card. If you free hit on in double 34 and you free hit and you wild card for double 37 or vice versa, you're covering both those big doubles, which could be 150-point game weeks. Yeah, and you're using a chip for them, versus getting you out of trouble this week. It's just the opposite argument.
Yeah.
I know you're in trouble. A lot of us are in trouble, but is it worth a chip as powerful as a free hit? I'm just not sure. It might be worth you taking the -8. Eddie Howe taught me into one the other week. I didn't want to do it, but I didn't have a keeper and I didn't have 11. So I don't know. It's really tough. It's really tough. But I think you summarised the plight of many with that. If you've got these players like Lascelles, who's been dropped now and isn't going to start, Taylor, who's a doubt for the weekend, Plum fixture, great if he's confirmed in the team news that he's going to play. That might swing it for you. Charlie Taylor, how about that? It's just little things like that will make the difference.
What do you think, Bakar?
Yeah, I have a few points to make. Charlie Taylor, I mean, I own him myself. I'm not sure whether he's going to start because the press conference, company didn't offer any updates. He basically said there's nothing to add. And in the previous post-match FA Cup conference, he sort of said that, he was hoping that with the big turnaround, the large turnaround, he would be able to have Foster and Taylor fit. But now that the game has been moved from Monday to Friday, I think the likelihood of him playing is has lessened. So I won't be sort of banking on him to start. I think this is an excellent case you've sort of put forward, Fergie, and I think your team is one which could sort of fall in that category of potentially free hitting this week. Having said that, I still won't go for it simply because let's assume you free hit this week. Then you come back to the same team that you have in the following week. You'll only have 1 free transfer. With that 1 free transfer, you will have Salah, you will have Son, you will have Charlie Taylor playing away to Man City, you will have Lascelles who won't play. You will have
the same problems.
You'll have Archer. Archer won't be playable, and this is assuming that Bowen and Trent will be fine, right? Which might not be the case at all. This is the best case scenario. So you'll have 5 players confirmed out. So you'll have to take a hit minimum next week anyway. So in your position, I would bring that hit forward this week and just take it on the chin because a lot of engaged FPL managers will be taking hits this week anyway. So I don't think you'll be too far off or too worse off than the engaged FPL manager. And just to save 4 points, I just doesn't sit right with me, especially when like Rich has mentioned and we've discussed earlier in the podcast that there will be a lot of opportunities later on in the season with far greater gains to be made.
Yep, and there was both excellent arguments back, so it gives me a lot to think about, indeed. At the moment, I'm still edging towards. I hate taking hits. I hate taking -8s, but you are right, and this is the one thing I must remember. These are all highly owned players. It's not like my players. Sorry, Rich, go on.
Sorry, no. The other thing that the listeners and the viewers won't know is that this thought was put in your head by Adam, who's not on the show this evening.
It was.
Who brought it up when we were chatting earlier, saying I'm going to free hit, which he's now redacted and gone back to thinking about taking a -8 or whatever. So it's Adam Hopcroft's fault who's put that in your head. So be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, you don't make any rash decisions tonight, mate. Wait for the team news and see what. I
think it's going to be sort of a 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Clear the decks, tie the kids up, and kind of work out what I'm going to do.
It's not one you can redact, is it? Once you've played it, haven't you?
I think that's right. Yeah,
switch it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Need to think about it, but yeah, It's just the longevity of this game week is crazy, and you know that there's one thing holding me back actually, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bowen plays, because that West Ham game is it's like, you know, it's almost a fortnight away, isn't it, or is over a fortnight away. And Bowen notoriously his fitness is pretty good, and if I took him out on a free hit and he went and scored a couple of goals, those are the kind of thing which are real punch in the guts, and they. So I would probably start Bowen, and you know, so yeah, I need to see. I might take a couple of hits. I'm not so averse this season because I'm in a reasonable position. 270k. I know it's not pulling up any trees, but it's reasonable. Like I think this time last year I was like ranked about 1 million, and the thought of taking -8s or -12s at rank 1 million is just, you know, you're at rank 1.5 million before you even start, aren't you? So yeah, I just need to think it through. But I must remember that most people are in this boat, so I just need to.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see the average. I reckon the average hit maybe across, let's say, the audience of this pod, you know, will be somewhere between a -4 and a -8. I would imagine. You know, if the chat is rolling or is not taking a hit, then tell us. But I think most guys who are tuned into this probably are going to need to take a hit this week. So.
Interesting captaincy this week. Looking at the hub predictor for the one game week, Saka is top, 6.2 predicted points. Palmer second, 5.7. Tony third, 5.2. According to the poll, Palmer top 25%, Saka 17, Haaland 15. Obviously, this was put out before all these injuries and before all the news and stuff. I did read earlier from a fairly reliable source that Haaland, Grealish, and Akanji didn't train today, didn't do full training. Please don't take that as gospel, everyone. But you know, he still seems to be a little while off, I think, doesn't he? To be honest, Bakar, who's your captain going to be this week?
I think it'll be Saka. Haven't given captaincy a whole amount of thought this week, but simply because he has been the most reliable of the likely candidates so far. I mean, looking at my team, I think Alvarez, Palmer, and Saka are the ones that stand out. I just think, looking at Arsenal's recent underlying data, they've been playing well, but they haven't been converting their chances, and I think they're going to give someone a hiding very soon, and I think it could be Saka. Saka's time to shine this week. It's just been, he just sort of seems to be the most known commodity out of the available alternatives, and he's only behind Salah and Haaland for XGI this season. So I can see him getting a good number of points against Crystal Palace. I remember actually captain him in the previous fixture, and it was a good experience. I mean, I know this is completely unrelated, but yeah, hopefully I can do well again.
Super, thanks, Bakar. And Rich, who will your captain be this week?
Yeah, tough one. Interesting to see the spread there. Quite surprised at the Palmer coming out on top, although he's a very sensible vice captain choice. You know, assuming we get, you know, well, we won't because we've got the Burnley game now. We got an earlier deadline, but yeah, he was going to be the first game, wasn't he? Chelsea Fulham. I would certainly say, if you're going to pick a captain from next weekend, pick a vice captain from this weekend. So you know, who's had a clean bill of health from the team news perspective, and spread those chips across the 2 weekends. But yeah, I think Saka, I think it's the best fixture. He's got the highest predicted points, and although his form has been a bit in and out, he's still heavily involved, and Arsenal, I think, will bounce back. It's not because they're not creating chances, is it? They just haven't been able to put the ball in the net. So I think Saka's as good a captain as any. I think if I could have bought Tony this week and I had the means to do so, I had the spot and the transfer to do it, I would bring Tony in and captain him, but I can't because I've got to put fires out like most people. But I'm surprised Tony's so low on that poll. If you were wild carding or free hitting, I think he'd be a captain.
Yeah, good stuff. I'd be going for Tony if I was on a free hit. I think I'll go Saka, and I know he gets a bit of stick because he's not he hasn't been incredibly explosive and a bit inconsistent, but I think he's really consistent actually. I think if you look down his scores this season, I don't think there's too many blanks in there, and I he just whenever Arsenal score, he seems to be kind of there or thereabouts. Tony, I like the positions he took up as well for the last goal when he was, he had a tap in from a couple of yards out, and I know I don't think he played very well in the last match against Liverpool in the FA Cup. Didn't play very well, but his positioning is so advanced. I always like having a captain if we can on some kind of set piece as well, because you don't have to play well to grab a goal off a corner, or a penalty or something. So I think I'll probably go for Saka. If I don't really hit, I think I'll be going for Tony if I do. Fergie is a punt for Gameweek 21 to 24. No surprise. Last week, Bakar, I don't know if you saw, I picked out last week. I picked out Michael Elise.
Who was it?
Michael Elise last week.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which was,
Rich,
and everyone's been talking
really
about
well
him
there,
since that's happened. He's not only scored 2 goals, but he's been mooted to be, to win
out for a long
time, but also to win the Ballon d'Or and go for 150 million, whatever else. So I think that's the best punt I've had in quite a long time. So a bit of a boring one this week. We talked a little bit about him, but this where is he? This player. He's got a spanking fixture against a ravaged defence. He plays Spurs next week. Prove an absolute top class player. Because he hasn't played yet this season, he's a proper differential. He's going to be in the a proper differential against engaged managers. He'll probably be in the 0.something%. And the player, as you can probably guess, is Ivan Benjamin Elijah Toney, who is going to score a couple of goals this weekend. I think he's going to be fit. He's going to be absolutely raring to go. Even if he is after a move, you want to put himself in the shop window, and how better to do it to bang a few goals in a home to Forest. So think if you can get Toney in any way, I think he'd be pretty decent. Rich, I've got your injury or flag ravaged team in front of me.
Yes.
What's your plans for this week?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, isn't it? I think my plan will be to, as I said earlier, to sell Trent for Estupinan this week, and then I will sell for the arguments presented. I will keep Salah, and hope that we get a lot more information about his return and other things like fixtures, double game weeks, etc. So I'll put Salah to the bench, and Son will go for a midfielder. At the moment, I think it will be Garnacho. It will give me about 1.8 million of money to spend in game weeks 23, 24, 25 on double game week players or remove blankers. And I'd rather do surgery like that, having Salah available, than sell him and have to buy him back either, because all I'll do in the meantime between now and the double is sell Haaland, also buy Haaland and buy Salah, and that's all I'll be able to do. So I just feel that I'll keep Salah if I can. Now I know there's an argument, you've got 13.2 million on your bench for 4 weeks. Well, yes, but these are exceptional circumstances, and we are playing for a double with transfers are incredibly precious. My ranking is low, therefore I can't afford to keep taking hits all the time. And so I think that's what I'll do. It'll be Gross or Garnacho coming in for me. I'll captain Saka and vice captain Palmer.
Have you given any thought to Walker over Stupinan?
Yeah, I like Walker, but I'd like the City double confirmed, and then if Spurs were to blank in 26, I might sell Porro for Walker, or I've still got Tsimikas stinking up my bench, and so that million I've got in the bank could go to upgrade Tsimikas to Walker. Also quite interested in Doty as well, if Luton double. He's quite a creative player, so definitely I've got that fourth defender. I mean, at the moment I've only got 2 playing defenders, so I've got to fix it this week, and I just think Estupinan's got more upside than Walker from an attacking perspective.
No, that's fair. I like Garnacho as a pick. I think if you have like 1.7, 1.8 million in the bank, that will also sort of help you potentially get Trent back in by game week 24. Yeah, exactly. By game week 24, if need be, you can sort of sell Porro for Trent at that time.
Yeah, I could downgrade Solanke or downgrade Watkins, something like that. I mean, I've been playing with a 3 a 3-4-3 for quite a while, and that's helped me a little bit this week in terms of managing the situation, because I haven't got that dud slot. I can allocate that dud slot to Garnacho, so I haven't got the Archer position. I can just put the 4.5 into midfield and bench him, for his tougher fixtures. But he also, one other word that we haven't mentioned is Garnacho has very nice fixtures in game week 24 and 25. I think he's got Luton and Forest or something like that in terms of those two games. So he's very playable in those 2 weeks when we're still missing the key assets. So he ticks a lot of boxes for 4.8.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Rich.
Otherwise,
Bakar, we've got your team on screen. You want to talk us through your plans?
Yeah, I mean, I have 4 flags in my team. I mean, Trent, Salah, Son are out. Taylor, I don't expect to play because of the short turnaround from the FA Cup. So I'm basically down to 10 men. I have to make a transfer. I have 1 free transfer. And there are a few options I can sort of go with. I think the sensible move for me, and the one I think I'm most likely to do at this point in time, is to buy Richarlison. I think I have sort of looked around different drafts, and if I am to afford Trent, Salah, Haaland in my team by game week 24, then I can't get to Foden. Then I have to buy someone cheaper, 7 million or cheaper. And in that price range, I think I prefer Richarlison. I know he could have a blank in game week 26, but I just think that there are plenty of short-term gains to be had by owning him. So he's someone I've sort of looked at. I'm not entirely sure whether to sell Son or Salah though. If I sell Salah, I can get to Haaland in one move. So that's sort of convenient. But on the other hand, if I sell Son, then I'm basically locking in a hit next week to get Haaland back through either a Trent sale or a Salah sale. Now you might argue that it's fine taking a hit next week. You'll have more information at that point. So this is something which I'm sort of trying to figure out in my head what to do. I don't think I will be selling Trent this week because I have double Arsenal defense and Porro, which is fine. I think that's
you're right.
a decent defense this week. I don't necessarily have to go out of my way to sell Trent, but this is what I'm considering, and these are my options. And I think it's going to be a late decision for me whether to sell Son or Salah, because there's not much between this, to be very honest. What do you guys think?
I personally think I would rather save on hits in the short term, just because you never you never know what's going to happen in the long term. I understand Richard's point, and he's right about people saying having 30 million on the bench, but you never know we don't know when Salah is going to be back. We don't know what state Salah will be back in as well. And I just think if there's opportunities in front of you to do well in the meantime, I think we've all been guilty at times, haven't we, of maybe planning a bit too far in advance, and it's come back to bite us. So I would get it done personally, Bakar, but that's kind of my style of play. I know it's definitely not Rich's.
You
probably
would
not
sell
yours.
Salah.
I would.
You would sell Salah.
I would, just because you can get Haaland in one move, and
Haaland
but even if you wanted to take, we're gonna have so much more news ahead of 22. You could even use that hit next week if you want to take a hit next week to prepare for 25 or 26 or whatever it's going to be as well, rather than just playing catch up. So that's what I would do. But yeah,
interesting. I mean, So your choice is Foden though for the midfielder. If money was
it's
no
Richarlison.
Object, is you will go Richarlison over Foden even if you sell Salah.
Yes, because that would give me enough to get Haaland next week. If money was no object, then I would have gone Foden. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think I prefer Foden over Richarlison if both were of the same price. But I can only get someone 7 million or below if I'm looking to do Alvarez to Haaland next week. So that's the rationale behind selling Salah. If I sell Son, I'm practically booking in a hit next week. So it's either going to be a Salah sale or a Trent sale. I know it's going to be easier at that point with the information we'll have, but it's going to be a hit. So it's sort of tricky. But I mean, again, the issue with selling Salah is that if he's back by 24, then it's going to be hard to fit him in. I'll probably have to save a transfer in 23, and then I'll probably have to sell one of Saka or Watkins, which could be fine because I don't think with any doubles on the horizon for either Arsenal or Villa, I think selling either could be fine. But it's not something which is ideal.
Good stuff. Thank you, Bakar. Just a quick look at my team, as I say, which is a little bit of a mess at the moment. Probably play Areola, I think. Gabriel and Porro. My remaining back three are Taylor, Lascelles, and Trent, who are all very unlikely to play. Saka, Palmer, and I've got Bowen, Salah, and Son, all unavailable. So I can't get a full midfield or defence out. And then Solanke, Watkins, and Archer. So this is obviously why I'm tempted to play a free hit. If I was to take some hits to sort my team out, my current thinking is I could alternatively look to play because if there's the blank in 26, the Liverpool double will probably it'll likely be in 25. I could just hold on a little bit and play the free hit in 25, and that would mean if you did sell Salah and Trent, it's not the end of the universe because you can get them back for that double. You can kind of load up, as Bakar mentioned earlier, both Liverpool and Man City would have tremendous doubles in 25. So a triple up on Liverpool and Man City there would be, it could be really, really good. I think if I was to take some hits, I would probably do Salah to Foden. I really like Foden. He was fantastic again in the FA Cup. I think he's probably, for me, one of the first names on the team sheet now. I know that people are worried about De Bruyne's back. I know he'll get some kind of rest at some point, but he just looks absolutely brilliant. So I'll probably do Salah to Foden. I'll probably, I could do like Trent to a Stupinan, but I don't think I need to. I think I could just do Lascelles. I get rid of Lascelles.
You could just do another redundant player to a Stupinan.
Exactly.
You've got the money for
exactly.
it.
I'll probably do Lascelles.
Do
only because I think that Taylor, I think, will still hold some value in the future. And if he plays this week, it's actually a decent fixture. So I'll probably do Lascelles for Stupinan for, that'd be a -4. And then...
and will that leave you enough money to do Haaland in one move from Archer?
Not from Archer. So this is why I could do again Son. I'd probably keep Bowen, I think. But I could do Son to Garnacho, which basically means I've got a decent team this week. I would have loads of money in the bank. I can get Haaland for Archer next week, and a good team. So
and then a Solanke for the double. Yeah,
but it is taking a -8.
I don't think you need. In all seriousness, I think your team is about as stricken as mine. You've got 5 flags. You've got slightly more risk. You probably a player down on me.
Player down. It's that Lascelles is the sucker punch. Yeah. So I think -8. Yeah. Which I don't want to take, but I think looking at it, it's all right.
It's better. The free hit is worth 40 points, 50 points. So it's worth taking the money.
But it does also mean I can get rid of Salah and Son as well, which I'll need to get back at some point. But I'm not a massive fan in fantasy across the board of playing really long-term thinking, only because so many things can change, and this is why I just think I can sort of have what's in front of you the next few game weeks. So
interesting thoughts. Yeah, it's a real interesting dynamic. There's probably teams out there with that are worse than yours.
There will,
in terms of the number of flag players.
There will indeed. Jason says, "You look like you're going to cry, Fergie." I'm not going to cry. I'm actually in a good position, and I think actually by getting in, I think there is benefit. I think the only benefit of taking hits for up and coming trending players, like for example, Foden, not so much because his ownership has increased, but Estupiñán and Garnacho. If I get on them early, because they will very likely become incredibly popular in the coming weeks, right? Because of their fixtures and price and stuff. If one of them does haul, I think it would almost pay back the -8 in terms of like the relative ownership, the effective ownership. That both of them are probably not going to exceed 10% homes this week. So I don't mind actually like thinking about it, and I also don't mind then looking at it, because even if I do get rid of Salah and Son and whatever else, and it all kicks off in 25, I think that's such a good game week, because Spurs would double as well, wouldn't they? Is that right? Spurs double as well in 24?
No,
No, they
the
won't.
Spurs won't.
Okay.
Spurs won't.
Okay.
No, the Spurs won't.
But definitely Liverpool and Man City, like the triple ups on those, and Liverpool would also then blank in 26. So there's no rush again to get Salah back and stuff. So yeah, I think that may be the way I'm going. We will see. Just a reminder before we go of our Christmas offer, which is finishing. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can do so for a full 30 days for free. This includes all of my team features you've seen, recommended transfers, predicted points through artificial intelligence, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members, and so much more. It's all on the app as well. An absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL. So give it a go. You will not be disappointed. I've got some news, chaps. Before we go, I've got some incredibly exciting news. So we've banged on all night, haven't we, about the FA Cup 5th round draw and how that shapes basically the rest of the season in terms of chip strategy. And on Monday, the 29th of January, the day before the Gameweek 22 deadline, we have got an incredibly exciting episode because so this is the even of the FA Cup 5th round draw, and it will determine all the answers to those unanswered questions we are currently all wrestling with. Wouldn't you like to climb into Ben Krellin's head that evening to unravel it all and make the best decisions for your team? Well, now you can, because Ben Krellin will be joining us live straight after the FA Cup 5th round draw on this very podcast, the Green Arrow podcast, to run through everything we need to know ahead of Game Week 22, which is just 24 hours later and beyond. If there was ever a must-watch show, this one is it. So don't miss out on that. It's going to be
ever a week to have transfers in the bank.
It's going to be an absolutely incredible episode. So really, really excited. And we're going to learn so much. So book that in your diaries. Monday, 29th of January. We'll do it after the FA Cup draw. So probably about 9 p.m. UK time. But yeah, it's going to be absolutely superb. And that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. A packed, fantastic lobby. Thank you so much, everyone. Brilliant. Those who are going to watch it back and those listening on the podcast version, your support is very, very much appreciated as usual. Rich, thank you so much as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
I'm on @RichClarke_FPL on X or Twitter.
Bakar, the main man, thank you so much for joining us. Your information, your intellect, your insight, everything as usual. Bang on the money. Thank you so much. You've pulled me off the ceiling, off the free hit ceiling. Between you and Rich, I'm off.
I hope it pays off.
So I really appreciate it. Where can people get hold of you, Bakar?
Big Man Bakar, @BIGMANBAKAR.
Lovely stuff.
On Twitter, Instagram.
Lovely stuff. My handle is @FFH_Fergi. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button if you haven't already. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. As I mentioned, we'll be back next on Monday, the 29th of January, just 24 hours before the Game Week 22 deadline, live with Ben Krellin, going through everything you need to know to have a successful second half of the season. In the meantime, we hope you have a great Game Week 21, and may all your arrows be green. Good night all.